think it's safe to say that the Chargers had a draft basically like we anticipated. They made sure to get a player in the first round that's going to start immediately. They go with guard Zion Johnson out of Boston College. That means that they're going to have to move someone over to right tackle, which definitely, obviously, Storm Norton plays there, but he was statistically, according to Pro Focus, the worst there, so he's not going to be starting. So they're going to go with Matt Feller, obviously, a 16-game starter last season. He was at left guard. He also gained some experience at right tackle in Pittsburgh. So, I mean, offensive linemen, they don't typically have like the most buzz. I really wasn't too fond of the pick, but that's because I'm a YouTuber. Like for the Chargers building a good team, obviously it was the right decision because they've got Justin Herbert. I mean, we all know that Justin Herbert can lead a team deep into the playoffs. We just have to see it. In order to see it, they also have to address the defense, which was 29th last season. They gave up almost 30 points a game. I don't. Where's the stat? 27 points per game. Just a terrible defense. The reason why it's terrible is because they couldn't stop the run, which they definitely solidified that, bringing in Sebastian Joseph Day, Austin Johnson, obviously Khalil Mack. If he can stay healthy, he's going to be a huge addition to the Chargers. This is a very tough division. It's up for grabs. Anyone can win it. Anyone can finish in last. The Kansas City Chiefs could finish in last. The Chargers could finish in last. The Raiders, the Broncos. Like, we don't really know. Anyone's capable of winning it. Anyone's capable of losing it. So to make sure that you have the best chance to succeed, instead of taking Trent McDuffie out of Washington, would have been a good corner next to Asante Samuel and J.C. Jackson. They go with Zion Johnson, who absolutely had the highest floor in this draft. I don't really see too much upside with Zion Johnson. I could be wrong. Like I said, I'm not an NFL scout. But to me, he was the type of guy that can come in for the Chargers and start right away, and that's what he's going to do. The Chargers, we knew they were going to move their line around. It's not like they had to take a right tackle. They didn't have to take. Well, Trevor Penning, is he allowed? I don't know if he played left tackle or right tackle, but he would have played right tackle for the Chargers. They could have gone with him. But hey, right now, honestly, you can't really complain. Whenever you get someone that can protect Justin Herbert, I mean that's the right decision at the end of the day because the Chargers aren't going anywhere. Just Justin Herbert can't stay upright and can't get a clean pocket. So I definitely was a little bit surprised in the third round that they went with a safety. He must have been at the top of their board, the most talented player. I know he's very athletic, and once again the Chargers, just with the division they're in with all these good receivers and obviously being not a good defensive team last season, they ended up going with JT Woods out of Baylor. Definitely have to look more into these guys that they picked. I've only looked into a couple of the teams that they drafted. So obviously, the Colts I looked into, the Texans, just some teams in the division. But definitely I'm going to look deeper into these guys. Isaiah Spiller, running back out of Texas A&M in the fourth round, 123 overall. I remember a couple of months ago I was debating some of my guys in my Discord about who I thought was the best running back in the class, and one of them, and this is a guy that watches way more college football than me. He's like, Isaiah Spiller is the best running back in this class, and I was like, really? I always liked Brees Hall. Reminds me a lot of Nick Chubb. Good receiver. Obviously didn't miss a game in his college career, but he told me Isaiah Spiller was the best running back in the class, and obviously he tested poorly at the combine, which hurt his stock. Isaiah Spiller would have been a second round pick if it wasn't for that poor combine, but hey, he fell to the fourth round. And we'll see what happens because right now the Chargers have Joshua Kelly. They've got Larry Roundtree. They've got another guy who's, I can't remember his name. Maybe it was Roundtree, but they drafted these guys and it hasn't worked out to say the least. Oh yeah, I wasn't thinking of Justin Jackson, right? Yeah, Justin Jackson's actually pretty solid. Honestly, when Eckler missed time, he stepped up, but yeah, they don't really have a lot of depth at running back, so you do have to understand that since 2019, Isaiah Spiller, obviously, in the SEC, he was putting up some just incredible numbers. He had 1,844 rushing yards after contact to go with 2,993 rushing yards. It led the conference. He definitely has starter potential. So to have him behind Austin Eckler to give him a breather, we know that Eckler is really good in the receiving game. He scored over 20 touchdowns. I really do like Austin Eckler. He's just like a dynamic player next to Justin Herbert. We'll see what happens, to be real with you. We know the Chargers can put up points. And if they can just get stops, they're going to be really tough to beat. to be real with you, in the fifth round, they took a defensive lineman at UCLA, Agbania, if I'm saying that correctly. He's 6'4", 324 pounds. He's just going to be like a rotation player. I don't want to really speak too much about that because the last thing I want is to give you guys like wrong information. So I'm not going to even touch upon that. They did take a guard in the sixth round out of Georgia. Once again, that Georgia team was just absolutely loaded. So he's gonna be hopefully complimenting Zion Johnson well. I'd imagine he's gonna be a backup for his career, but you never know, right? Yeah, we'll see what happens. And then in the sixth round, the Chargers had a ton of picks. Like they had a ton of picks, bro. So in the sixth round again, they end up taking Jazeer Taylor, corner out of Wake Forest. Just another depth piece once again. I mean, depth is important in the NFL. Injuries happen. Obviously, guys might get tired or something like that. So just to have players that you can count on. He's 6 foot, 195 pounds. Pretty good size for a corner. Nothing crazy, but pretty much exactly what you're looking for. And then in the seventh round, once again, they ended up taking a fullback, which is interesting to see a fullback get drafted. He's 6'3", 230. He did play 8 games in his senior season. I guess he had a broken fibula, which occurred in the second game of the year for Purdue. He carried the ball 91 times for 335 yards and 3 touchdowns. I have no idea what the Chargers' plans are for these guys, if they'll make the roster or not. I mean, he's a 7th round pick at the end of the day, but yeah, overall, if I had to give the Chargers a grade, I probably would give them definitely a B, probably maybe a B plus. Maybe you could convince me of an A because sure they didn't really get like the sexiest players, but they needed to address the offensive line. Obviously, the defense was their struggles last season, so they brought in someone that can start right away. Defensively, they've got an athlete. And outside of that, they got their backup running back. They didn't sign anyone. They didn't make any trades, so they bring in Isaiah Spiller out of Texas A&M. And they got another defensive tackle, which is something that they needed. And honestly, I think it was a pretty good draft for the Chargers. We'll see what happens, but I'm looking at the Chiefs. I mean, the Chiefs had a very good draft. They got McDuffie, they got Sky Moore, and that's just the players that I can think of. So the Raiders, obviously, they drafted, I can't remember who they drafted, but they didn't even have a first or a second. And then the Broncos, once again, like I couldn't tell you guys, but I was just more focused on the Chargers. And the Chargers got better. Whenever you get better and you get starters, I think they probably brought in 2 starters, which is good. Like the more starters you bring in, the better. And I mean, even moving forward, dude, like the guard that they brought in out of Georgia, and you bring in a defensive lineman out of UCLA. Those are just guys that can, if they need to be called upon, I'm sure they could come in. So we'll see what happens at the end of the day. Like who really knows? But yeah, Thunder Alley, I'm out.